In the previous lesson, we saw there was a lot of options for different input types for allowing users to input data into a form field. And there are also different elements that allow you to input data as well into your HTML form. So another one that is commonly used is select. So we do select and we give it a name of, so I'm going to just give it a name of SEL and close off that select tag. And then in between here is where we've got to present different options for users, and typically you will set values here because these options need to coincide with having values that get returned. So again, this is the same way as the radio buttons, where we've got different options here for the values that we can set. So it doesn't always necessarily need to be that same one. But if you want whatever value you want to pass over whenever the form gets submitted, this is going to be the one that gets passed over. So it's not the one that's in between the option, it's the one that's set as the value. So here we've got our input type, our drop down here, so it's a drop down selection. If I want one that's already selected right off the bat, so if I want a set 2 as the default selection, then it's going to show up here on 2. Otherwise, it'll take the first one, the first item in the list there as the selection. And lastly, another really popular element in HTML forms is the text area. So this is actually going to work differently than the rest of the form inputs because we've got an opening and closing area, and the content in here is what the user adds. So they have the ability to actually get to that content that's in there. And here we can specify, just like any other one, we can specify a name for it, so message. And we also have some additional attributes to specify as well. So we can specify the number of rows. So we can essentially set the size of it. So if we want maybe 20 rows there, makes it really long, probably way too long for this demo, so we'll make it quite a bit shorter. Columns. Now we can set the width of it, so maybe let's set 50 columns wide, and it gives us a really nice wide form. And then of course whatever information is already between the text areas, this gets presented to the user to access and use. And also when it comes to forms, so we have options to have different attributes. And as you can see, there's a whole lot of attributes here. So we just looked at attributes such as the columns and text area, and here it tells you which form element uses which attributes. So we've got one that's fairly popular, the disabled one, which we could set on input fields. So let's pop back into our form, and let's say we want to disable one. This one, we can set the attribute of disabled. And what we see now, you can't actually enter data into there. So these are a lot of different attributes that you can set. You can set max lengths, so the maximum number of characters that are allowed in the element, and a whole lot of information. The required is another really popular one because the required makes that pop-up box when you try to submit the form. So if I put my file as required and save that, and if I try to submit it, it gets this little pop-up here, so please select a file. So that's another really useful now one that was brought in with HTML5. We've also got the selected we looked at. We can just simply go through here, and there's just a lot of different ones. So we use value fairly often. Form, we can set the target of where we're located. So these are a lot of the ones that we've already looked at, and there's really is quite a lot of other ones that you can add in. So you've got your autocomplete, autofocus, and so on. When you are creating your form, take some time to plan it out. Determine what type of fields that you want to ask, so what type of fields typically would be asked in a form, and what type of information you want your user to provide, and then go ahead and build out the form, selecting any one of these different elements and attributes or combination thereof in order to really style and create your input form for users on your website.